Begin. A very warm good morning to you and welcome to the Health Discourse with me, Asasha Elizabeth. Now, today being International Epilepsy Day, we bring you this conversation to enlighten you on so many aspects of this condition. Epilepsy, they say, affects more than 50 million people worldwide, with nearly 1.8 million Kenyans living with the condition, yet myths and stigma still persists. What is it that we are not doing right? And what is it that we need to do to ensure that we mitigate this? Today on International Epilepsy Day, we separate fact from fiction and focus on action. And of course, to help us unpack all these, I'm joined by Mr. Frederick Beuchi, who is an expert and advocate in epilepsy awareness and ambassador. And he's going, of course, to work with us on this conversation. But first things first, let's get to hear from him. What does he do? Good morning, Mr. Frederick.
Good morning.
Thank you for creating time for this conversation.
Thank you so much for having me too.
Great. For our viewer who might have not interacted with you, please just briefly introduce yourself.
Okay. So my name is Frederick Beuchi. I'm an epilepsy awareness activist. Professionally, I am a reverend with I am a reverend with the Methodist Church in Kenya. I currently serve as a chaplain. I was a chaplain at the Maua Methodist Hospital, and currently I serve as a chaplain in one of our mission schools, Methodist mission schools. Over and above that, I advocate for epilepsy awareness from a point of being a caregiver, and also from a point of the passion of just wanting to share information that is helpful to our society and community. I have been doing this advocacy work for more than 10 years now, and I'm really glad that today, as the world celebrates and marks International Epilepsy Day, we still have an opportunity to continue shining light on epilepsy.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that came as a surprise, you being a reverend.
Yes.
All right, great. And I'm Asasha Elizabeth, and I'll be guiding this conversation. But as usual, we give you an opportunity to weigh in on the conversation. If you've got any questions or anything you'd like to contribute today on International Epilepsy Day, feel free to weigh in on this conversation on our social media platforms, as well as on the numbers popping on your screen. Mr. Frederick, without wasting time, before we get deeper into the facts and figures, let's take us back to the beginning about your personal journey. Is there any defining moment that made you to become an ambassador or advocate of epilepsy awareness?
Yeah, surely. So it goes way back to 2012. So 2012, where I come from Mombasa, and in a family of 5 siblings, being the firstborn. Our last born sister, her name is Mercy. She was diagnosed with epilepsy when she was 2 years old. And after so many years of trying to figure out what exactly that condition was, until we got an opportunity to have consultation with an expert, it was very difficult for us to come to terms with understanding what was really happening to her, because there were no clear signs that she was having that condition. But that also could be coming from a point of we as a family not having come across or near anything that looked like a condition called epilepsy. Because from my village, I only remember there was one young man who was known to be having this condition. And people to some extent even could forget his name because they were only identifying him by epilepsy, the condition itself. So from that point, it never occurred to anyone else that that condition could befell any family member within our community because of the stigma it came along with, the myths, the misconceptions. Personally, I think the closest I had come to knowing about epilepsy was from watching the movie Jesus. When
it never dawned to you that
completely,
your sister would be at some point diagnosed.
And you
with
can
it.
imagine from that point of understanding or knowing epilepsy from a movie about Jesus, it already takes you way back. It looks like it is these conditions that happened in those years that will never ever happen again. Yes. So again, my understanding was shaped by the fact that even from the movie, that young man who was brought to Jesus having seizures, Jesus' shadow when it was cast on this person, it says the demons of epilepsy left this person. So my understanding from that point also was like, oh, so this condition is caused by demon possession. And then when it happens that now you are in the midst of it and you have a sibling who has this condition, it becomes even more confusing. So she got epilepsy when she was 2 years old, and hers was a type of epilepsy we call generalized seizure. The type that if you ask anyone what is epilepsy, they'll tell you that condition that prompts someone into a seizure attack, they fall down, they begin to jerk. She was getting an attack after every 20 minutes. So you can imagine there is no alert, there are no symptoms or signs that this person is going to fall in the next 20 minutes. And that happened for about 6 years when we were now struggling and trying to figure out what this condition is and if it is even treatable. So in 2013, I quit my job. I was working as a shipping agent in Mombasa to just come home and help my mom take care of my sister. Because we would leave for work only to come back in the evening and find him with fresh injuries all over, cuts, wounds, and it was really taking a toll on my mom. And that's why there's that aspect of care for caregivers, because sometimes it's heavy on them. And you are taking care of a person who has a condition that you are not sure if it is treatable or if it is curable or if it can be managed. At this point, you are not even sure who is the expert doctor that deals with such conditions. So I quit, I came home, I was helping my mom to take care of my sister, and one day I watched an interview, doctors talking about these conditions, and they said we're going to have the first epilepsy open day in Nairobi. So I told my mom, let me just go. Maybe I'll meet a doctor and I'll be able to share this story and see how our sister can be helped. So I was lucky to come to Nairobi at Uhuru Park, and so many people. I couldn't come with my sister because of the frequency of the seizures she was experiencing. But I was lucky to get a doctor. I explained my case, and they really felt it because they were like, I think you are the one person who has come from far all the way for this. So we will be coming to Mombasa, bring your sister to this certain hospital. We do a fresh diagnosis, put her on medication, and see how that goes. So they come down, we took her to the hospital, and they did a fresh diagnosis. They were able to determine what type of epilepsy she has. They started her on medication. Right now, my sister is 20 years old, and she has been seizure-free for about 9 years now.
Wow.
And from that moment, that is what now kind of like sparked the passion for me to start doing epilepsy awareness.
A touching story right there, Frederick. And you mentioned that the type of epilepsy. What is it in layman's language? What is epilepsy exactly?
So first, you notice that we refer epilepsy as a condition. It's not a disease, okay? It's a condition because everyone is prone to getting epilepsy. Everyone is at risk of getting epilepsy at whatever levels of their lives. Because epilepsy is caused by brain damage or brain injury. And our brains can be damaged or can be injured through different things. Example, for my sister, she got epilepsy after suffering from cerebral malaria. So 2 weeks after she was born, she contracted malaria and it developed into cerebral malaria. So while cerebral malaria is curable, if it has not been cured on time, it affects the brain and it leaves someone now at a risk of getting epilepsy. Other infectious diseases that can cause brain damage, hence putting you at risk of getting epilepsy, are like meningitis. We have meningitis, we have cerebral malaria, and we also now have other predisposing factors like accidents, for example. You have someone who encounters an accident and they get an injury, and that injury goes deeper into touching their brain and it leaves them at a risk of getting epilepsy. You also have things like birth complications, for example. A mother is expectant and perhaps they don't have an opportunity maybe to go for the antenatal care, and by the time they are due for delivery, they are being rushed, and then complications happen, or they get a baby and the baby maybe does not cry, or there are delays during labor or prolonged labor. Those are just some of the things that can cause brain damage or injury and can prompt someone to be at risk of getting epilepsy. But this is what we also want people to understand, that it is not all brain injuries, brain damages, or brain conditions that can put someone at a risk of getting epilepsy. Of course, our brains are the engines that run our bodies and everything that we do. So anytime our brains are tampered with, they can cause, amongst other things, epilepsy alongside other conditions. Now we call them neurological conditions.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Fred. And every second Monday of February, the world marks International Day of Epilepsy. How important is this day to locally and even globally?
Well, I would say just like any other International Health Day, I think this was a noble idea for WHO to come up with a day that specifically looks at awareness for epilepsy. Because in the past, epilepsy was being considered as a neurological disorder. So a person would go to the hospital, they will show every sign of having a certain type of epilepsy, but it will not be given a name even during diagnosis. And that was really giving it a lot of challenge for even to come up with numbers and say how many people in the world have epilepsy, how many people in the country have epilepsy, because that diagnosis was not actually being specific. It was just being said that a person has a neurological disorder or a seizure disorder. So the second Monday of every February is very significant now, because globally it is being identified as the day to celebrate, to mark awareness, and also now to voice and advocate for what needs to be done with governments, with organizations, with institutions, with people in research in terms of medicine, what needs to be done to help people living with epilepsy.
Thank you. And there are so many misconceptions surrounding epilepsy, and one of them is the prevalence rate. And when you look at the recent stats, epilepsy stats, as I started by revealing, it shows that this is a condition that really deserves that much attention, just like any other condition. Why do you think that? Why do you think that so many people still think that this is a rare or an unusual condition?
I think, number one, when we talk about the statistics, that plays a very key role, because everything in this world rotates around numbers. Okay, so when you are not able to prove and show that something really is affecting people, then it leaves you with little support in terms of getting people to understand, or even getting the government to support such. Epilepsy is a condition that is also categorized as a disability. Epilepsy is a condition that is also recognized as a non-communicable disease. Now, we know of so many non-communicable diseases. I think we are just from, if it is not this month, or if it is not this month, then last month, marking and celebrating cancer awareness and things like that. And you can bear me witness that we didn't have to, you didn't have to talk to so many people to get to know what is happening this month about cancer. Like it's known. When it comes to diabetes, when it comes to hypertension, like those international days, mental health, when it comes to those international days that mark these days, you can see even from the Ministry of Health, everybody knows what is happening.
Everyone is drumming up support for
exactly.
that.
And this is because of the statistics, the numbers, the research, the resources that have been put in for these conditions to be in the limelight. Now, for conditions like epilepsy, unfortunately, that has not happened. But this also has been caused with so many other, factors, including the myths and misconceptions. People don't want to come out. People don't want to be known that they have this type of condition because, again, of the stigma that comes with it. So if people don't come out, or they go to the hospital and they try to describe something different apart from what they are experiencing, the doctor is not able to also kind of like identify that this person came to the hospital and whatever we diagnosed was epilepsy. So they will try and look for a different word to say that this patient has this condition. So the lack of that then makes it very difficult for us to be able to see the burden of epilepsy, not only in the country but also globally. So awareness really helps. And I can say, although I'm mentioning so many challenges that have come with getting to know how to put epilepsy in the limelight, over the years, so many things have changed. And now that there is the media that also gives us the platform to, you know, shine light on it.
Exactly, and that's why we are here today to do that, to amplify that. Now, in every situation, especially a medical condition, there are always myths that are always surrounding the condition, and they need to debunk these myths so that the audience can have the right information and act accordingly. And what are some of the myths that you've encountered as an awareness ambassador, the most dangerous or jaw-dropping myths? I know you've encountered something and you're like, oh, does this really happen? No.
Sure. I think from the different communities I've interacted with within the country and even outside, it's not shocking that even in countries like in Europe, like in 2023, I was in Ireland, and it was surprising to get to know that even in those countries, you have people who think that epilepsy is caused by witchcraft. Epilepsy is a curse from God. Epilepsy is caused by demon possession. You know, it was surprising for me to get to know that there are people who think that way. But there's also this myth that epilepsy is hereditary. Epilepsy can be passed from one person to the other. You know, those are the things that have defined the understanding of epilepsy for so many people, to an extent now that when someone gets an attack and they have a seizure and they're having fits, nobody wants to get closer to them. Because now they think, if I touch this person, then I will have epilepsy. It has gotten to a point where if someone is qualified with, you know, a certain course that they have done and they are professional in that line, but they go seek for a job, when they are feeling that health form and they make a declaration that they have epilepsy, that's the end of it. Someone is not even looking beyond the ability of this person and what they can do and add to that company. It has gotten to a point where children who are either born or get epilepsy along the way do not have equal access to education, because you go take this kid to the hospital and you explain to the teachers that just like any other parent would want to explain if their children have a certain condition, leave alone epilepsy. But you mentioned that they have epilepsy and the teachers are like, no, I don't think we can take your kid because he or she will become a scare to the rest of the children. Yet you have children there who are schooling with diabetes and so many other conditions. Exactly. But now, why not give this person an opportunity? So that has been defined mostly by these myths and misconceptions that have been there for the longest time about epilepsy.
Great. And there's one I'd like to share before we go back to the school children. Growing up, I witnessed one situation. I think there was a young man who was suffering from that condition. And then whenever he would get a seizure, they would say nobody should go closer. That the moment, some of them, you know, during that moment of fits and kicking, they pass out urine. So there was a misconception, I don't know if it's a perception, that if you step on that urine or you jump it, then you are also at risk of contracting that condition.
I think it is as good as you put it, the myths and misconception and lack of information, because I mean, if you understand epilepsy from a point of it's a non-communicable disease, you know, not even urine can really make someone get epilepsy. Yeah, not even by using maybe the same plate of food or exchanging clothes and things like that. So that's far from the truth of what we know about epilepsy, if any one has to really maybe get the condition.
Thank you. Now let's get back to school, because nobody really applies to get such a condition, but of course they also deserve an opportunity to interact and mingle with others, to school, to with the rest of the students or pupils. What should parents and teachers know when supporting a child with epilepsy?
That's a good question, and I think over the years, as I got myself to advocate for epilepsy awareness, it really gave me an opportunity to not only do it maybe in the open, but also create and have a place where, you know, the caregivers and these children can have an opportunity to learn. In Mombasa, I started an epilepsy awareness resource center, which is not a school per se, but it's a safe and a homely place where if mothers want to bring their kids to learn something, then they have an opportunity to bring them there as they go to either fetch, you know, livelihoods or something for their kids. And this came as a result of my own experience while looking for a school for my sister. We went to every public school, we even tried private schools, and that was really difficult for her to be accepted. And all we needed was her to just get the basic, you know, because epilepsy sometimes, you know, affects the brain to an extent where someone gets what we call intellectual disability, slowness in learning, slowness in doing certain things, and you just want them to come to speed with knowing, if I feel like I want to go to, you know, the loo, I can tell the teacher that this is what I'm feeling. If I'm given food, I can use a spoon and I can feed myself. Just the basics. But that was very difficult, again, coming from the understanding of what those teachers or heads of those schools really understood about epilepsy. So back to your question again on what they should know is that before you define any person, whether a child or an adult who has epilepsy, with the connotation of them being epileptic. That's not the word that we so much use, because when you say someone is epileptic, it's like you're not looking at the person, you're looking at the condition that they have. So every moment you look at the condition that this person has, then to some extent you degrade them, because everything else they are able to do, you are trying to also look it from the point of them having epilepsy. So if it is a man who wants to marry into a family of a girl where they don't know epilepsy, you will not see the ability of the man being able to provide for that lady. You will see this man from a point of, will they even be able to take care of our daughter when they have this condition that limits them to do certain things, you see. So it all starts from a point of understanding that people living with epilepsy are not limited, and they are human beings first, even before epilepsy.
Thank you very much for that detailed explanation. And that also sends us to the most important aspect of this condition, that is stigma and social impact. How does stigma affect the lives of people living with this condition and their families?
Well, that question is heavy, because it gets me back to the many stories that we have engaged when doing community advocacy, where you hear someone took their own life because of the stigma that came with epilepsy, and from what people were also saying. Of course, the worst you can think about is when a person is prone to taking their own life because of a certain condition that people have failed to understand and have failed to accommodate them. But that again cuts across now in so many other various places. We have just talked about workplaces where a person is prone not to getting that job because they have epilepsy. And this could be coming from a point of the owner of the company doesn't want to have a history of having workers who have such like conditions. You see, the same also scales all the way down to school. We have talked at length about that. You have parents who are just looking for an opportunity where their children can learn, yet those schools are not offering that enabling environment for these children to have an opportunity to learn. All that again coming from a point of stigma, that what happens when this child gets a seizure in class scares the rest. They go tell their parents that we are schooling with mad children or crazy children, because those are the tags and the titles for people who don't understand what epilepsy is. They will describe the persons living with epilepsy as having mental health issues. And that's a totally different thing. Actually, what we have been doing to try and reduce the stigma, even at the hospital point of view, is telling the hospitals to at least have separate rooms. They can call them epilepsy wellness clinics, and stop directing persons living with epilepsy to go and receive treatment in mental health clinics. Because that already, you are trying to tell these people that you are not normal. You have a problem with your mental status, you know. And the moment you tell a person that they have a problem mentally, they begin to view the condition very different, you see. And epilepsy is not a mental health condition or issue. So don't subject these people to start believing that they have a mental health issue, because you already know the stigma also that comes with someone being told they have a mental health issue. So you add that into a person who already has epilepsy. It's very bad. The stigma is unbearable.
Thank you for that. And it's so discouraging to learn that it can send someone to take such drastic actions that might even end their own lives. I think it doesn't have to get that ugly, because we are humans, and as humans, naturally, we need that sense of belonging. And if they feel at some point that they cannot fit anywhere, not even in the religious context, in churches, mosques, etc., or in schools, even in groups, it really becomes so difficult for them to survive. And as a caregiver, still on the same, you've worn that shoe of being a caregiver to your sister. What is it that the most burdensome part of it, or difficult part of it, that you'd like to share? Do they get enough support from the immediate family members and the community at large?
What I can say about being a caregiver, of course, I have been for my sister, and of course, came in when I saw it was really taking a toll on my mom. It is important to know that for caregivers who are taking care of persons living with epilepsy, you see, epilepsy is also being recognized as a chronic illness. So it is caregiving in any chronic illness. It is really not easy, because a chronic illness does not give you an opportunity to think that we will wake up tomorrow and this condition would have been completely healed or treated, and this person will live their normal life. And you don't know for how long this person will live with this condition. So it becomes more of like a daily job that you have to wake up and do. Now, it becomes even difficult when this condition has not been managed or controlled. You can imagine living with a person who after every 20 minutes they get a seizure, they fall down, you have to treat them one injury before it even gets healed. They already have a burn, they already have a hand dislocated, and so many things. So it makes the person who is taking care of them to forget about themselves. I would watch my mom many times with unkempt hair, the same dress that you saw her with yesterday. She didn't even have time to do anything inside the house. The moment you left, and she was left only her with the sister, the utensils have not been done, the house is dirty, not because they don't want to do it, but now you need to choose whether to stay with this person because you leave them for a minute and the next thing you are rushing because you've had a bang. You don't know where they have fallen or what has happened to them. So the ability of not being able to take care of themselves also comes along with other conditions. They start being depressed and they start being stressed, and they begin now to also behave in abnormal way that you don't expect them to, and they're not able to tell because for them they think that it is their responsibility to take care of this person. So if I don't do it, who else will do it? So we came up with a program that we call social care for caregivers. And we say there is no epilepsy awareness without care for the caregivers. Sometimes they take in even the stigma part of it. Because an instance I can give about my mom. We are Christians and we live in a mission land by the Methodist Church. And by the time our sister had been diagnosed with the condition, we were all very active and participating in various capacities in church. But now when this story of our sister having epilepsy came in and it was known, the church even started saying that we had done something to our sister to get riches so that she continues to behave in that manner. So it was very heartbreaking. And I remember my mom being taken out of the group that she was leading in church. My dad as well was the chairperson of that church. I was a youth leader and I had to also step back. So you begin to wonder, do I stop taking care of my family member because other people think that, you see, it's a very difficult line. And every time you go to places, you introduce yourself. Do you want to be known to be that brother who is taking care of a sister living with epilepsy? Or do you do want to hide from that fact? You see, so it becomes very heavy also to caregivers, and that's why we think they need to be given a space of their own to speak out without fear of being judged or being stigmatized by taking care of a person with a condition like epilepsy.
So the most important thing is to give them that platform to express themselves out.
Exactly. Yes, to give them that platform and to always remind them that they also have a life to live. Okay, we know how compassionate a caregiver can become in wanting to see their loved one getting better, but not to the expense of losing themselves. Because if as a caregiver I am not healthy, I am not strong, I am not of steady mind, then I cannot offer the same to the person that I am taking care of.
Thank you very much. That's quite profound. Now, let's speak about seizures, because there are those who have frequent seizures. There are those with the good management, like you say, your sister has, it's been 9 years right now without a seizure. But if it happens because it doesn't give you cues that it's happening, it could be at the workplace or even at the church or in the marketplace, in the public space. If it does happen in public, what is the correct first aid response that is required? What should people absolutely avoid doing during this time?
So for first aid, we say we have 5 things that we call them first aid do's and 3 things that we call them first aid don'ts. So the first aid do's, what you're supposed to do is when a person gets a seizure, and in this case it's a generalized seizure, the one that prompts them to fall down and jerk. We have others who have some kind of foam coming out of their mouth. When they fall down, the first thing you're supposed to do is to stay calm. You can imagine this is something happening in a class or in an office. So if we all panic and begin to run, that can even be tragic to that person. We might not also understand what has made them to fall. So you stay calm. And number 2, depending on where this person has gotten that seizure attack, is it in water, on fire? Is it in a place where we have sharp objects or stones, anything that can cause them injuries on their body or on their head? You remove them from danger. You remove them from danger. And then number 3, you look for something soft, you place it beneath their head. In a scenario where you don't have a pillow or you don't have anything soft that you can put your hands together like this and make sure the head is well protected. And then if they have their clothes tightened, you can try and loosen them. And then the 4th thing you do is roll them in what we call the recovery position. Recovery position, you lie them on their left side. You don't lie them on their back or on their stomach, but you turn them on the left side. This helps them first to breathe well, and also for those that have some kind of foam coming out of their mouth, it gives them the ease of the foam just coming out. Because if you lie them on their back and there is foam coming out, it can go back and choke them. And then lastly, you stay with them until fully recovered. Because most of these people, immediately from a seizure, they always look kind of like confused, you know, because of what has happened. They might not be able to tell exactly what has happened. Then these 3 things we are not supposed to do is, number 1, do not put anything inside their mouth.
That's something that people really tend to do.
A lot, quite. So it's spoons, it's sticks. You have even people coming with a piece of cloth and they try to stuck it in. When a seizure is happening, there is no complete circulation of oxygen to the brain. So they use their mouth to get enough oxygen and their nose as well. So the danger of putting something inside the mouth is not only blocking the airway, but also a seizure most of the time cannot go beyond a minute. Some happen for seconds. An episode can reoccur after an episode has already occurred. Like I get a seizure now, in the next 1 minute over, but in the next 5 minutes I get another one. So we are talking about a single episode of a seizure. It cannot run beyond 2 minutes. Actually, we say if it goes beyond 5, that should be an alarm of rushing that person to the hospital. So in the course of you trying to put something inside the mouth, you are not sure at what point the seizure will stop. And by the time they're having a seizure, there is a lot of contraction of the muscles. So you are there trying to push something, and then suddenly the muscles relax because the seizure is over, and whatever you are pushing in goes much deeper into, their neck, and it can even cause more damage there. So do not put anything inside their mouth. Do not restrain them when they are jerking. Calling people and saying hold them. That's the only way a seizure can manifest and come out, because they are like electric shocks. Okay, so when you hold them, it means that all those shocks end up in their muscles, and by the time that seizure is done, the muscles become very weak and they are not having the energy and strength to even walk by themselves. And then lastly, do not give them any drink, it's water or anything. Do not during that time of the seizure. And we say this mostly because I've had people in other places say immediately one gets a seizure, you get a bucket of water, pour it on them. The worst I ever had, I think, was when someone has a seizure and there's an old woman, you call them, they urinate on these people. So, so many crazy things people think about, and that's not true. You just need to.
Now, briefly,
yes.
Because time is fast running out, how accessible are diagnosis and treatment services for epilepsy in Kenya today, given that from your own story, it took you almost 6 years for you to figure out what was happening with your sister? Has the situation changed over time?
I think that's the other big gap that we need to address. As much as we advocate for awareness for people to come out, and people have really started to come out, because in Kenya currently we talk about 1.5 million people living with epilepsy. But now when you measure that up to the number of experts that we have who can help with diagnosing and also treating of epilepsy, those numbers are very little. We have, the last time I checked, we had about 2 epileptologists in the country. And then they are closely being assisted by the neurologists who are not even 35 across the country. So if you think about that against a number of 1.5 million people, that tells you that there is a gap in terms of treatment. And so many people perhaps even give up when they think about seeking help from a professional point of view. If you only have 2 specialists who deal with epilepsy, what makes you think, chances of you getting this person are for them to walk you the journey of epilepsy, you see. So that is a gap, but it happened that in 2019, I was co-opted as a board member of the National Epilepsy Coordination Committee, which is a body that helps to advise the Ministry of Health in terms of what can be done to ease the burden of treatment and even awareness for epilepsy. And it is from that point where we gave suggestions like, these neurologists and these epileptologists, can we come up with a program where we can go to, say, level 5 hospital or county hospitals and train the nurses and train the clinical officers, medical officers on the basic diagnosis about epilepsy. Come up with an epilepsy treatment guideline that, gives an order and direction for any health worker can be able to go through that book, and they can be able to see these are the first line drugs that we are using in the country in terms of treatment of epilepsy, so that any other person who visits a public hospital, they are sure of getting one person, could be a nurse, could be a clinical officer, who can understand and do a proper diagnosis and give them the proper medication.
Thank you. And most of the time, we do a lot of awareness and forget to set the ball rolling in terms of the action itself that brings about change. This year's focus is moving from awareness to action. What practical actions can individuals and institutions take in as far as epilepsy is concerned?
Actions in terms of institutions or, say, places of work is creating an enabling environment for persons living with epilepsy. Start now from changing your policies, from saying that a person with epilepsy cannot work in this company. Start from changing your bylaws and rules if it is in a school setup of saying if a child comes here with epilepsy, they cannot be part of, you know, this school community. You know, those are deliberate actions that I feel once we have raised enough awareness and people have become aware, then from where we are, let us start now taking action. And we can only do that by changing, because some of these things, even the person who we are blaming that they are not taking our kid in that hospital, they are bound by the policy and the laws, and even in that company, so they can't do much. But if that can be changed as an action point of, then we can be sure that people can still get opportunities to come out and be free and be open and be confident without feeling like they will be stigmatized or they'll be denied those opportunities.
Thank you. And as your parting shot, what message today as we mark International Epilepsy Day 2026, what is your message? What would you like the viewer to remember about Epilepsy Day? And can people living with epilepsy live their life to the full, productive lives? I would like you to first that camera just speak to our viewer.
All right. So my message today, as we mark International Epilepsy Day, goes first to the caregivers. And I want to remind you that for you to take good care of that patient living with epilepsy, you should also take good care of yourself. Make sure that mentally you are stable, you are healthy, you are strong, so that you can do the same to this patient. And for the patients, my reminder again to you is epilepsy is not the end of life. You can live a healthy, strong, and normal life. Go to the hospital, get your meds, follow the instructions of the doctors, and live your life to the fullest. That is my message.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frederick Beuchi. We hope we get another opportunity, because there's quite a lot that we need to do. And part of our awareness is having such discourses and conversations to help people understand that this is a condition like any other that could be managed, and that people can just live like any other. We wish you all the best in what you are doing.
Thank you so much.
As an ambassador of awareness for epilepsy.
Thank you.
Great. And of course, as the saying goes, epilepsy is not a curse. It is not contagious, and it should never be a reason for fear or exclusion. And as we mark International Epilepsy Day, the call is now quite palpable that understanding saves lives and compassion restores dignity. Let's move from just awareness to action, because when we know better, we do better. This has been the Health Discourse Show with me, Asasha Elizabeth, that comes to you every Monday. And thank you very much for joining us. On behalf of everyone who made this successful, we say thank you very much and see you next time.
In a world where health information is everywhere, but clarity is rare, there's a place where understanding begins. Welcome.
From Thanksgiving to homecoming to the grand culmination, after the Silver Jubilee celebrations of priesthood marked by the first Thanksgiving Mass at St. Philip's Mukomari Parish, followed by a heartfelt home celebration at Kambiri Sub-Parish, Kakamega last December, all roads now lead to the coastal region. Destination: Holy Cross Catholic Church, Chani. On Sunday, the 22nd of February 2026, the journey of faith reaches its peak at the Holy Cross Catholic Church, Chani, in the Archdiocese of Mombasa. Join the faithful as we celebrate 25 years of priesthood of Reverend Father Silvanus Kizito Iloka from 10 a.m. East African time. Capuchin TV will be there, bringing you every sacred moment live, streaming concurrently on TV, YouTube and Facebook. Mark your calendar and let's see you at Chani on Sunday, the 22nd of February. Keep watching Capuchin TV, your staunchly Catholic identity channel.
Every year, as we mark the World Day of the Sick, we come together where medical care is joined with compassion, where faith walks alongside suffering, and where healing is placed in God's hands. On Wednesday, 11th February 2026, Kenyatta National Hospital Chaplaincy cordially invites you to the Holy Mass starting at 10:30 a.m. The Mass will be presided over by Right Reverend Bishop David Kamau, Auxiliary Bishop of the Archdiocese of Nairobi. This Holy Mass will be brought to you live on Capuchin TV and across all our social media platforms. United in prayer, we will remember the sick, their caregivers, and all who serve life with commitment kindness, and love. Keep watching Capuchin TV, your staunchly Catholic identity channel. Roll down like waters, and righteousness like an ever-flowing stream. Amos chapter 5 verse 24. Lent is a period for inner conversion, spiritual growth, and reflection on Christ's passion. The Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops invites all Christians across the country to attend the 2026 National Lenten Campaign launch, which will be held at Immaculate Conception Shrine at the Catholic Diocese of Lodwar on Friday, 13th of February 2026. Christians are encouraged to reflect on 3 pillars of Lent: prayer, to deepen the connection with God, reflecting and studying the scripture; fasting, a spiritual discipline of penance; almsgiving, acts of charity by helping the needy and the poor in the society. The theme of this year is building a just, peaceful, and united Kenya, upholding equity and human dignity. This solemn event will be broadcasted live on Capuchin TV and all our social media platforms. Capuchin TV encourages all Christians to maintain the spiritual growth by relying on God. TV, your staunchly Catholic identity channel. Catholic Archdiocese of Nairobi invites all the PMC children, PMC animators, matrons, and patrons to the Pontifical Missionary Childhood Annual Mass. Join us on Saturday, 14th February 2026 at 10 a.m. East African Time at St. Mary's Grounds, Msongari. The Holy Mass will be celebrated by His Grace, Most Reverend Philip Anyolo, Archbishop of Nairobi Metropolitan, and will be brought to you live on Capuchin TV and streamed across our digital platforms. During this celebration, we shall also witness the launch of the PMC theme for 2026, One in Christ, United in Mission. Umoja katika Kristu, pamoja kwa umishonari. Come, let us pray together and renew our call to mission as one family in Christ. Keep watching Capuchin TV, your staunchly Catholic identity channel.